wake me up to another good morning. Time to go. Oh, we are all looking for adventure. We are all looking for adventure.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining me on this episode of Just Ask, where we get to ask interesting people interesting questions. The only rules you have to follow here are to be open-minded and to be respectful to every guest that joins me on the show. Please be aware that some episodes may contain graphic content or explicit language. My guest today is Leah Hurst Lywood. She's a paranormal investigator, studies shamanic and indigenous healing, is a teacher of well-being, a public speaker. She's just multifaceted in her journey through this life. Thank you for being with me today, Leah. Tell me how you landed where you are in your life.
Several years ago, it started off with me starting in a paranormal group. That kind of just fell in my lap. It was something I was guided to, which I know now, I didn't at the time, to get started on paranormal investigating, which led, of course, to a lot of media exposure at one point. And then at the same time, or thereabouts, I also trained as a Reiki master over the span of, I'm going to say, about a year. And then it's just progressed since there. There were many things that were going on in my life at different times. I was getting little guidances and things falling in front of me, and I was not getting it. I was working as a legal assistant, and then at one point I was working as an administrator, doing administration in office, and all of these things just kept disappearing. Like, it was like, no, we have to restructure the office. No. So I thought, okay, you know what? I know there's something more I'm supposed to be doing. I need to explore this more. So in fact, I did. And as time has gone, everything started coming at me. Fast forward, now I've been training with a woman. I'm an Indigenous woman from Manitoulin Island. I've been training with her, doing shamanic work. Wonderful woman, absolutely love her. And then I learned medicine work as well. I have trained in various medicines out of the Amazon, as well as Mexico and the various plant medicines. I work one-on-one with people. I do group things and we do retreats, but a lot of my things that I'm doing right now is one-on-one, small ceremony type, individual type services. But as I said, I do work with others, co-facilitating as well as facilitating my own retreat. There's a lot of things spiritually that have come to me. Of course, I've opened up. I get messages that I deliver to people as needed. And yeah, there's just a whole other world that has opened up from my humble beginnings. So that's kind of where I am now.
So you started off as a paranormal investigator, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was one of the questions, was what kind of led you to that? Because that's not but nobody wakes up one day, I don't think, and says, hey,
No.
You know what, this is what I'm going to do.
I mean, everything I'm doing now is the path I was meant to take. But that essentially, I've always been fascinated since I was a very young girl. I believed in magic. There has to be a way that this can actually work. This can actually happen, and connecting with the other side and ghosts and spirits and, the whole ball of wax. Anything that isn't normal that most people would say, you know what, you're crazy. It's like, no, I'm not. I'm telling you, I'm going to prove it to you. So, I mean, it's something that I've always gravitated to. And as I said, it was one of those things where in my hometown, there's an area by the Credit River that's called the Barber Mill. And it has sat for many years, and there's been different undertakings with different, I'm going to say, owners to do something with it. And it's a huge part of our hometown, and nothing's been done for many years. And that's how it kind of started. They went and did the two girls that were doing it with a couple of other girls initially. I saw an investigation they had done, and I was like, you know what? I'm working with somebody in town right now. We're kind of trying to find out, where is this going? You own this. You've got a plan for it. When is it going to start moving? Saw that, coordinated the two, and told them, listen, if there's anything I can do, I'm from town, born and raised here, next thing you know, well, come on, we'd like to meet with you. I went and met with them. Two of the girls that were with them disappeared. It just wasn't a fit. It wasn't working the way they'd wanted it to. So the two girls that I did the paranormal with, the three of us, met, talked, and next thing you know, I was doing research and I was starting to do investigations with them, and it just went from there. It was amazing. It is amazing. We keep saying we're going to do some, but the last few years, we've just all been so busy that it keeps getting put aside.
I think the pandemic kind of brought the whole world to a halt for a while too, right?
Well, yeah, to some degree, yes. Although that wouldn't have stopped the three of us, but Like I said, we're just all so involved in our own lives and what we're doing right now that we keep talking about it, but we haven't done it the last 2 summers. So
So when you go out, I'm just going to go with some of the questions I have
yep,
now. When
yeah,
when you would go out on an investigation, would you ever go alone or do you always go with a team?
always go with the team. We potentially didn't really even go in and out of it. I mean, our abandoned houses were our favorites. That we get a lot of activity there, and there's a lot of different stuff there that you won't always encounter in a residential home or a business, because we did businesses, we did town halls, we've done Old Fort Erie, we've done, there's just so many that we've done. But no, safety wise, especially in abandoned houses, you don't know. And it's not a matter of more than not the spirits or anything else that is there. It's more because of animals that could be in the house. And it
Right.
could be, we have to be very careful when we get started. We check the whole place out in daylight before it gets dark, because you want to do it together. You want to be safe, because you don't know if there's somebody partying there, there's kids on drugs and alcohol. You don't know,
Oh, exactly.
right?
Yeah, for sure.
So in that case, I mean, we're doing the or not the abandoned houses, businesses, residents, that type of thing. Yeah, we go in on our own if we wanted to, or even with somebody that owns the property or whatever it is. But abandoned houses, definitely not. One of the things we tried to teach people is, number one, don't go in there alone, and number two, make sure you know what you're doing, because the energies that are there could potentially attach to you, and you can bring them home and not even know it if you're not familiar with what to expect, right? Because people would go into these places. Oh yeah, I'm going to bring in. I've got my recorder on my phone. I can go in. I'll just get my camera, and I'm going to go in and do this. It's like, okay, but remember, you're provoking a possible energy. You're entertaining this, so you don't know what's going to happen. So unless you're knowledgeable before doing it, we always suggest, don't just go in and do it. Make sure you have an idea what to expect or not expect, or how to handle situations.
So what kind of technology do you use?
Well, as of the last few years, as I said, we haven't used much. The founder of the group, Kim, she's working with Snipes Investigation out of Brantford, off the reserve there, Six Nations. She's opened up to mediumship, so she potentially goes out with them and kind of guides them through when they're there. They have a lot more updated equipment than we do, but we had different types of equipment. There was equipment. Isn't that stupid? It's been that long. I'm not even remember the names of everything. It's crazy. I'm so busy doing other things. But we had different things that we could pick them up on that would give us notification and sounds, right, to
Okay.
tell us if something was close to it, because they pick up the energy of whatever is there. Our K2 meters, we had EVP recorders. We had, like I said, the K2 meters. We had cameras. Everything, of course, can do night vision. Had to do night vision. We didn't do the investigations, but in the night, we could go in and have EVP recorders, but anything visual, you wanted nighttime, because shadows and other things you would pick up
Oh,
from
okay. Yeah.
this equipment. In the daytime, you don't know, right? What is the shadow coming from? Is it in fact something paranormal, or is this,
A shadow.
a tree or
Yeah.
something moving, or a bug flying through the
Excuse me.
room? Who knows? You have to be very, very careful.
So one another question I thought this one was really interesting. Is it wise to bring home a souvenir from a haunted place? What could go wrong?
Funny you asked that. A few of us have done it. Kim, again, the founder of the group, she has no problem with it. She loves. We did an investigation with literally a sterling silver serving tray. The people were having a lot of issues in the house, and we nailed it down to that. This, in fact, it had something attached to it. Right? It was a family heirloom that they had gotten used as an antique elsewhere and brought it home. The thing that we often suggest, if you're going to buy anything used, right? You're going to buy it off the internet. You're going to go to an auction. You're going to get it at a garage sale. Whatever you're getting, make sure, if you don't know how to do a proper clearing, clear that before you bring it in the house. Because in the event, it doesn't mean there's always stuff attached, but typically you're going to have residual energies that are going to be attached to those used items that you're bringing in the house. So make sure, whether it be with sage, or if you know somebody who may be able to help you to clear it properly, clear that well before you bring it in your house. In fact, when you go to a new place, same idea. If you were to rent an apartment, or to lease, or you're buying a new house, don't put anything in that house till you've gone through the whole house. Either have somebody who knows what they're doing and clear it, because you've got residual energies there. I can tell you stories. Oh my goodness. of these things happening. Make sure everything's cleared. It doesn't mean you can't bring it into your house, but I wouldn't just buy it and bring it in.
Interesting. I never thought about that. Going to a yard sale, anything like that, right? It should all.
Well, be exactly, because even the energies, it doesn't even have to be an antique. Anything that we touch, anywhere we've walked on this earth, our energies are left behind, whether we're still alive or we're not alive, right? So you have the residual energy on these items. And if these people have had a rough time, somebody just died, there was somebody in the house that was ill for a long period of time, someone got divorced, fighting and arguing, all of these types of energies, more than anything, you do not want to bring into your house.
So what happens if you do?
Well, sometimes you can get away with it. It doesn't mean that everything, like I said, it doesn't mean that everything is going to have anything attached to it that's not good. But essentially, you're bringing in other people's energy into your house, right? And potentially, you don't want to do that, right? Good, bad, or indifferent. The energy you want within your own resonance, right? You want it to be your energy, which is why, even with what I'm doing now, it's important that we tell people to consistently clear their space, clear their own energies, clear in and around the aura, because you're going out there. And right now, with everything, as you said, from COVID and all of the things that are still playing out and are going to, I hate to say it, as good as this year is going to be, there's going to be a lot of not so good. And we're walking amongst that energy, and we're taking that energy on. And a lot of the reason why you're seeing people, especially people with mental health issues, those energies are amping things up, and they're making it even more difficult and challenging in some situations. So it's really important. It's almost a responsibility to consistently clear our energies and the space we live in, because every time you go out and come home, over time, you're bringing that energy. You're bringing it home with you. And most people are not conscious of that. And a lot of that eventually amps up and starts to play out however that looks.
That's really interesting. Yeah, I've never thought about it that way. I've never thought about it that way.
It's important. And it's virtually, especially the way things have gone the last few years, it's a responsibility. It literally is a responsibility, because how I'm feeling and how you're feeling, if we're not taking care of that and we're going out, into the collective or shopping or working or whatever we're doing, we're sharing that energy. Because the minute you intermix, especially with people having a difficult time, you're intermixing the aura. The aura goes it extends about 3 feet out from the body. And that encompasses, side to side, back, front, and top and bottom. I mean, all the way around. So if you're standing close enough to people within that 3-foot radius, you are actually sharing those energies with that person, whether they want it or not. And they're taking on some of that energy. So you want to clear that out periodically, because you don't want, if you ever have days when you kind of go, wow, why am I feeling like this? Like it just comes out of nowhere. One of the possibilities is that. And that's when we tell people, get sage, Palo Santo, even cedar. There are so many different types of things, like we create, my friend and I, who do retreats together, we create cleansing and clearing sprays for that reason. So that if you're out and about, you're not going to pull out sage in the middle of a parking lot and start clearing yourself. People are going to look at you and go, okay, what is she doing? Right? But you can potentially spray yourself in and around your aura before you get in your vehicle, because then those energies are in the vehicle as well. Like, people don't understand. For those that are not knowledgeable, it's for no other reason other than it's not something typically, it's not taught. So unless you have somebody close to you that can kind of direct you and guide you with this stuff, but it's very important, especially right now.
Yeah. Wow. So
that all came from about buying something or bringing something home.
Yeah. So have you ever dealt with like an evil spirit, an evil?
Oh, yeah.
So what's been your scariest experience? These are all questions that I've been asked for you.
Yeah, that's fine. Funny thing is, doing what we do, we're not afraid. And that's people go, how can, I have a friend of mine who does a lot of the work that I do, but going on an investigation, oh no, she wants no part of it. And I said, come on, you look what we see and deal with people and what they have inside, that's hindering them. Not that much different, but no, I don't want no part of it. In terms of what most people would classify as scary, there's many, but I think the one that has always stood out with me was an investigation we did in a private house. We had all gone to this private house, and we never exposed what the building looked like for the most part, or the address. We titled everything with a name so that people would not squat, or, they have to respect, they're an abandoned house, but at some point somebody owned this.
Yeah, that's
And
right.
whether they've passed or they're not, somebody may still own that, even though they don't live there anymore and it's getting very run down. So we honored that respect of that property and the buildings or whatever is on the property. So we titled them, and this one video that we had done, this investigation, we called, actually Kim usually names them, and she called it the Kruger House. We actually did 2 or 3 investigations there. We actually had stuff get thrown. There was a piece of the molding that you have around your baseboard in the newer houses. It's not wood; they're kind of flimsy, like they'll bend.
Yeah, yeah.
We were in this house, and there was a piece of that on one side of the room. And while we were investigating, and we're standing in the dark, and it just flew across the room. What the heck? We've got our headlamps. What the heck was that? And it went from where we saw it when we started to hearing the noise and looking, and there it was on the other side of the room, which was we kind of said, "Can you do that again?" Because this is what we do. We did it about 2 or 3 times. The last investigation, I think it was the last one we did there, we had actually brought a gentleman named Jim Hunt, who was a medium. And he was actually getting started shortly with a show called Knock Knock Ghost. And he had brought his producer and his wife. So there was the 3 of them. And then there was us 3 girls and a couple of people that come with us, as well, when we're doing investigations. Long story short, there were 4 children's souls, spirits that were trapped in the upstairs of this house. And there was a lot of very not so nice kind of entity, negative energy type beings that were literally outside the house, inside the house. They were everywhere. These young girls, these spirits of these young girls did not want to come downstairs. They were afraid. There was also what we would call kind of a spiritual dog that was also kind of on watch, and they were afraid. They would not come down the stairs. So with everybody kind of connecting in and finding out what was going on, Jim had said, "You know what, you guys stay here. I'm going to go upstairs." He even warned me at one point where I was standing just outside where the stairs were in the corner. He at one point had said to me, "You need to get out of that corner." And I said, "Well, I can feel it," because I could feel the energy. He said, "No, you need to get out of that corner." I said, "Okay, I value that." I walked out. He ended up going upstairs. Him and Jeff, who's a friend of ours that would go with us on these investigations, we used to call him our security, for lack of a better term, to kind of assist us if we needed it. And we said, "Go up with Jeff." No. He said, "Yeah, take Jeff with you. You're not going up on your own." So the 2 of them went up. When they came downstairs, and unfortunately, because we were all standing around, he had said, "I'm sure it felt like I got scratched." And when he came down on his right-hand side, he lifted his sweater, his shirt, whatever he was wearing, and we were looking, and he actually had scratch marks on the side of the middle of his side. There was actual scratch marks there. Unfortunately, in the video, you can see someone standing in front of where the video would have seen when he lifted his shirt. So we essentially did not get that on video, but we did get the conversation with him lifting his shirt and all of that thing. So for most people, something like that would say, "I'm out of here." They'd be running as fast and as far as they could from that place.
Mm-hmm.
But for us, it was like, that's awesome. Like, sorry, we hope you're okay, but this is beautiful. Like, it's this is what we do, is seeking this stuff out, trying to find out where it's coming from, why it's happening, and all of these other things. So that was that's one that's always stood out for me. There's been many, but that was kind of when you get the physical signs as well as the spiritual, but we were able to release 3 of the 4 spirits that were there, the children's spirits, release them from that house. And it's now, we wanted to go back, actually. We talked about going back, not in the last, I'm going to say, year or so. And unfortunately, it's been demolished. It's now been torn down. So we got our 2 or 3 investigations in, and yeah, there won't be another.
I'm telling you, this stuff is all just leaving me speechless. I think I find it so interesting, but I think I would be terrified.
Well, and you know what? And you're not alone. as I said, it's, I guess it just takes that certain way of thinking of things, right? I mean, I've had stuff attached to me and I've had to go home, and it was the one time was brutal. The energy that was attached to me, we were doing an investigation in a cemetery, and typically, cemeteries are highly active, but they're not necessarily in a bad way. But this one cemetery that we did was, yeah, there was some stuff there that really was not nice. Long story short, I didn't clear as we do at the end of every session because there was coyotes coming, and it wasn't because we're afraid of coyotes. As we always laugh, we're not afraid of the spirits and the ghosts. We're afraid of the humans and the animals. That's
Yeah.
what they can do to us out in these situations. But anyways, there was coyotes coming, and you could hear young ones howling with them. So we knew, it's time to go, whether we're ready to go or not. We respect where they live and what they do, as well as if they've got young ones, then they're not going to be as passive as they might be other times. So we knew it's time to leave. And they were getting close quickly. So we packed everything up, got it in the car, got in and left. And we never leave without clearing and binding the energies or the spirits, entities, whatever it is that's there, back to the place that we're at. And we didn't do any of that because we were trying to get moving. Didn't think about it. It's the only time I think we ever did that, but I paid for it because it had been following me around for the most part, most of that investigation that we were there. And I did, in fact, bring it home. And as the night wore on my way home, I really felt it. My legs were like rubber. I wasn't feeling good. I was getting more and more lightheaded, So there was a lot of stuff playing out, but it's not the first time that it happened.
So what do you do when you get home? Then you're able to clear?
Well, yeah, oh yeah, yeah, and of course, clearing it, you need to stay out of the residence. Which at that point, we went into my. At the time, I had just separated from my ex-husband, so I was staying with one of the girls in the group, and Kimberly and I didn't think twice. It was like, okay, we got to get rid of this. She was born as a medium. She was born with the gift right from the get-go, and she could really sense and feel it as well. And I said, we got to get rid of this. I can't do this anymore. I'm really having a rough time. I'm getting to the point where my legs are so rubbery I can't walk. So we weren't thinking and did it really quickly. I mean, the whole night it's almost like the energies were working against us to begin with. So we were in her garage, and okay, let's do it. And then as soon as we did it, I went, that was really idiotic. She goes, I know, because you don't do it anywhere. You can't even just do it in a garage and say, okay, it's not in a house, though. That's all part of the house. You need to do it outside, removed from anything or anyone, to make sure that you're just releasing it. You're not releasing it into. Anyways, needless to say, I had to clear the house, one portion of the house, 3 times a day for 3 days, and I was able to be rid of it. But they're not always as easy to get rid of once you do something like that. So you always make sure you clear, not in your vehicle, not in your house. You don't want it anywhere. You go outside, away from everything. So when it's released out in the open, not into
A physical
a
structure.
building. Yeah, exactly.
When you're encountering this kind of stuff, is there physical harm that can happen?
Over time, it can, which again is why we really emphasize with people, when you're doing this stuff, if you think it's fun, that's fine, but your fun in the long run can really hurt you, because the more negative energies that can attach to you over time, they expand and grow. And that's when you start to feel more and more ill at ease, or you can start feeling sick, because it takes a while. It doesn't happen, in a week. It takes time. But if you don't release that energy, then it can really play havoc with you. It can play havoc with the people that are in your family, or that you live with, or friends, or relationships. What happens is, eventually what can happen is, if you're, say for instance, you're in a relationship, you live together, it can create a situation where all of a sudden, out of nowhere, you're arguing, you're fighting. There's nothing making you happy, and it continues to amp up in that manner. And again, when that happens, unless somebody is going to say to you, well, I look at that, there's a reason, because usually it just starts happening. There's not really any rhyme or reason. And it can do that type of stuff. So yeah, most definitely it can create a situation where it happens that way. But over time, the energy, see, what people don't realize is that those energies, we already carry energies of trauma from ancestral, past life, karmic life, and what we build from this life. And they continue to grow with every one of us, right? And this is the work that I do now, is to help people releasing this type of thing, because these energies that grow over time, and it doesn't even just mean just in this lifetime, it's stuff that we bring forward from parents, grandparents, et cetera, and so on. So as we're coming forth lifetime to lifetime, and these are not dealt with, this is how you're seeing a lot of major illnesses. A lot of the major illnesses that people start to suffer from, if you see with indigenous, right, or the red man, they have the medicine wheel. It shows you the stages, that it starts with cold and flu, and in the end, in those stages, in the end, that's when you're getting into critical illnesses that essentially will take someone's life. And it's kind of the same thing. It may not happen right away. It may not even happen in this lifetime. But if we don't tend to this stuff on an ongoing basis, it will play havoc. No doubt about it.
Your focus is on natural healing, correct?
100%. 100%. It's for those that maybe cannot. That's a whole other topic. For people that can't do the medicine work. I work in several different medicines, as I said, from South America, from Mexico. There's various methods that we use. But I also have, for those that may not or cannot take that type of healings and work and ceremonial pieces, then I have the work that I'm being trained with as Native Indian and Indigenous, the trainings that I'm receiving from that are different types of energetic connecting with the other side as well, in order to help people to remove these energies that are creating these illnesses.
Amazing. Here's another question. I don't even like asking about this one.
Oh, go for it.
Ouija boards.
No. You know what? Ouija boards, we get asked this all the time. Now, I know people that are very comfortable using them, but typically the people that are comfortable using them know a lot about how, because it is a portal. And this is what people don't understand. I mean, I look at Toys R Us. I don't know if they're still selling them, but for years they were selling little pink Ouija boards for kids. I was astounded. I thought, oh my, they really have no idea what they're doing. It is a portal. You are opening channel ways to all types of different universal areas. So typically it can be very dangerous. It's the same with investigating. If you're going to go into that scope of investigation, whether it be seances with Ouija boards or otherwise, you better be knowledgeable, because there's a good opportunity there that they're going to go, woohoo, there's an opening for me, and they come through. The other thing I tell people, there's 2 or 3 things. No Ouija boards, unless, as I said to you, there are people that use them, that are comfortable using them, that have a lot more knowledge in how they could bind back anything that's come through, to bind it back to that board. And sometimes in investigations, they have to be bound back to the board, and the board has to be burned. Once everything's been bound back to the board, you burn the board, for those that are having issues, in that way, because they really had no idea what was going on. But there are 2 or 3 things that we always, kind of gave advice to people. One, when you open a door, it's just like when you watch vampire movies. You don't just say, oh, come on in.
Right? True.
If you have any energies, now it's not like they're sitting there waiting at the door. So I don't want people to go to extremes and think, oh my God, I'm going to be bringing something in. It's a chance. It's not like it's absolutely. But the one thing we did after we did an investigation, I would go back and do house clearings. So when you go back and do the house clearing, is the one thing we would advise people. Once we had the house clear, because if there was stuff that was in the house that we'd let go of, they don't sit at the door and wait. It's a periodic thing. They come and go. But once the house has been cleared, we always advise them, for at least a month, don't just invite anybody in, and make a habit of saying, hey, Sally, come on in. Oh, hey, Joe, come in. Don't just say, come on in, because it is literally an open invitation. When that door is open, to invite whatever we just released back into that house or that business or whatever.
So be specific with a name.
So be specific when someone's at the door, or don't say anything, just, let them come in. But when you say come in, be specific when you're saying to somebody, come on in. Say their name, right? So that it's pronounced. And of course, you don't have to say everybody's name. Oh, hey, Sue, come on in. Right? And then the rest that are with them can just follow, right? It's not like you have to invite everybody individually. The other thing is mirrors are another potential portal. Right?
So I've heard that. How does that work?
if it's not being used, you got to remember, again, there's no reflections. There's nothing there to. It's not being used, right? Again, that's a whole other topic that would take time. But basically, the long and short of it is also a portal. If you're using mirrors in the house, that's fine. It's not like they're just going to be there as a portal for everything. What I say to people is, if you have mirrors hung up, or in rooms, or if they're just stored in the basement, the ones that are not being used collectively become a portal much in many ways. We tell them just to make sure that you once in a while, it's not like every single day, it doesn't have to be done, just make sure that that mirror is being used. We had an investigation, we have photos of it. There was literally neon lights coming through that room from that mirror in the dark, and they were having issues, and we figured that that was most likely the reason and the cause for it, because it was a mirror sitting on the floor in a spare room, never looked at, never used, never touched. When we were in that room, felt the energy, and in the darkness with our equipment, we were able to pick up. They were like squiggly lines, almost like electricity shooting through in the room. And we got pictures of it. You can see the various colors of these energies that were coming to and from this mirror. So yeah, if you have mirrors in the house, make sure you're using them. And you don't have to, like, every single day, all day. It's a periodic thing just to use it, because you're kind of claiming that space. When you're using it, you're looking at it. That's kind of the way it works. Like I said, there's a lot more to it, but that can get into a very lengthy conversation. Just know that opening the door, yeah, always make sure that you're kind of following the protocol, because it doesn't mean it's going to happen again. It doesn't mean, okay, it's going to happen because I didn't do this, but it's a potentiality. You kind of want to err on the side of caution, right?
So how do you deal with people who say that, oh, ghosts aren't real, spirits don't exist?
I don't.
Okay.
This is one of the things that we always, we used to have guest ghost hunts because it's what helped us raise the money, right? So for $20 a person, we would spend the evening, the whole night. We had some buildings that we had access to take people on guest ghost hunts. There was always activity, always, in order to raise money, because the equipment wasn't cheap, and you're not looking at one, you're looking at several pieces to do different rooms at one time, et cetera, and so on. It's one of those things where, we had husband and wives come. I remember the one investigation we did. There was a greenhouse, and there was some Indigenous children that were buried underneath, or in this greenhouse, in the ground in the greenhouse. And of course, you're walking on that ground. It was just grass in the greenhouse, and it was actually the one greenhouse. A lot of it was just a lot of place where they stored the pots and all the other stuff to grow onions and miscellaneous things. And we had a guest ghost hunt. We were split up. I was in one building. Kim was in another building. Kimberly was in another building. She was in the one with her son with the greenhouse. And we had a bit of activity before, but not a lot. Nothing was happening. And Kimberly, the one thing you don't do is provoke spirits. It was actually, it's very not a respectful thing to do, but it was one of those things where we were kind of looking for, a little bit of activity, trying to amp things up a little bit in order to, to see what we could get with people that were there. Mm-hmm. The husband and wife team, there was the wife was all over it. He was there just to be with her. He didn't believe in anything. He was a very, very strong skeptic. And there was something happened, and there was a comment made that provoked the spirits of the parents of the children, I believe. And this greenhouse was a Quonset hut, a metal Quonset hut, rooted and anchored into the ground cement. Like there was a tornado could have gone through, and that thing would not move. And we were over in the horse arena at the far end, which was a ways away from this Quonset hut, with all the doors closed, of course, to try and prevent any exterior noises as much as possible. And we could hear this Quonset hut rattling. It was it sounded like an earthquake. So in provoking, saying what was said, that obviously very much upset these spirits that were there where these Indigenous children were buried. And this husband still, He went out, he was trying to shake it. You couldn't move it. I mean, it was solid metal in the ground. And at that point, I mean, kind of his comment was, oh, there has to be something that happened. There wasn't even a breeze that night. Like, there was nothing.
Some
And
people
out of
just
all
can't
these
accept
buildings,
it.
no. And he was in there when it happened, and everybody ran out. And even then, he went out, and of course, he was grabbing the side of the building. He's going to disprove this. And it was like, there's no disproving it. You tell us what happened then. By all means, like, let us know, right? So you just can't. And I mean, we didn't consider it our job to do that. If people were interested and they engaged with us because they were curious, regardless if they believed or they didn't, we always told them, we're going to do what we do. This is our passion, and you're coming here to join us. So we appreciate you, and we respect you, and we respect your beliefs as much as we just want you to respect our beliefs.
Absolutely.
Right? And that's it. There was never a time that and we made it very clear to people, if you don't believe, hey, that's cool. That's you. And we respect that. Just respect us for what we do. We don't want to be mocked or otherwise. And if we do, well, okay, we're just going to walk away. But belief is a belief, no different with religion and anything else in our lives. We all have what we believe and what we do and see in our lives. And that's okay. We just need to respect one another. No judgment.
So have you ever gone into a place and not found anything? Or pretty much everywhere has something?
We've been into places that didn't, like residences especially, more so than the abandoned houses. There's always a little something, we connect with something there. It's not strong. It's not something anybody else would probably pick up on. But there's residual energies. And when I say residual energies, as compared to what we called an intelligent energy, again, anybody that's listening that knows anything about this knows you can expound on what I'm saying. I'm just kind of giving a generalization with what happens with this. So a lot of times with the residual energy, it's an energy that is remained in that place. So for instance, an example, one of the places we used to investigate was an old farmhouse, and we always were in the basement. Again, that's a whole other story. We'd like to go back to this place again. It was one of our first places, and absolutely one of the most active, with a not so nice human spirit energy. But anyway, so we were in the basement of this house, and you just go up a couple stairs to a little landing out the back door, and then go up a couple more stairs, and there you were in the kitchen. So we were right below that, and you could hear, I'll never forget, the hair stood on the back of my neck. I was so excited. The first time I ever went there, first investigation actually, and you could hear the footsteps through the kitchen, and they were kind of doing the same footsteps in almost in a circle, over to the stove, back to the fridge, the stove, the counter, and it was like someone was in the kitchen, and it was a woman humming, but it was over and over like a broken record. The same footsteps around and the same humming, over and over and over. And that was kind of the residual energy. It's not what we call an intelligent energy. That's the energy of the woman that was there. And obviously that's what she did. She was in the kitchen most of the time, and it was something she often did. So that energy remained there. An intelligent energy would be more so the energies of an actual spirit that's passed, that hasn't crossed over yet, is still in our realm and hasn't crossed yet. And those are the energies that you'll often. So an example of that would be, we had another house that we did, and there was an older gentleman. We were upstairs, and there was an older gentleman there, and he couldn't understand why we were there. And Kimberly, one of the girls that I spoke of that was born with the ability, she was communicating with him at that point. And, he was like, why are you here? Why are you in my house? Well, this is who we are, and this is what we do. And unfortunately, you're no longer in this house, even though you're in this house. So she was communicating with him, trying to get him to understand that we hadn't broken into his house, because the way he was still seeing is this was his house, like when he was alive.
So do they know they're trapped? Like, do spirits?
Sometimes no. Sometimes no. Sometimes yes. Sometimes they're there for a reason. And that's millions of reasons. There's just all kinds of things that can play out for that. But he did not know. I don't know if he even knew he was dead, because obviously, actually he didn't know, because he couldn't understand why we were in his house, right? He still visualized this house as his house when he was alive, with the furniture and the carpeting and, not running down like it was as an abandoned house. So he was very upset and he started to pace. And we respect spirits as well. So we tried to explain to him what we were doing, did a bit of an investigation upstairs, which is where he was staying. And we left because we didn't, again, you got to respect all of these energies. We're not there to agitate and make life difficult, or afterlife, however you want to look at that. And we did a bit of investigating, and he wasn't going to calm down. He really was not understanding. We were, because we told him we're investigators. This is what we're doing. This is why we're in this house of yours. What was your house? Da 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 da. He just wasn't getting it. He was not understanding, and he was pacing more and more across the floor, by the railing, by the stairs. And so we just agreed. You know what? Okay, we did a little bit here. We've gotten this evidence. I think we just need to go back downstairs and possibly leave, because if he's getting really upset, that's not why we're here, right? So we did a little bit, and then we left. So, but that's kind of the difference between an intelligent energy, and the intelligent energy isn't necessarily that in that case either. That's just kind of an example. But they're energies that are still here, have not completely crossed over, and they're communicating. They can communicate right back and forth. A residual energy does not communicate with you at all.
It's like a shadow.
Kind of. It's a residual energy. It's
Yeah.
there, and it's just something that's it's almost like when you see somebody nervous, and they always say about wearing a path in the carpet, right? They're kind of doing the same thing. It's just over and over and over and over and over. But they know enough. Like if you go up to walk in there, because we went up to put our EVP recorder there, because of course we weren't picking up anything in the basement. What we knew, we were taking a chance when we went there of the energy being gone. And of course we went up and into that kitchen, and that was done, so we never did get the actual evidence for it. But that's kind of a summation. Again, there's a lot more behind that, a lot more explanation and whatnot, but that'll kind of give you an idea of what it's about.
Well, this has been
In simple terms.
a fascinating conversation. Thank you. I appreciate you taking the time to do this, because this has been so informative for me.
Yeah,
And
awesome.
I'm a firm believer. So, Leah, if anybody wants to contact you, or a website, anything like that, do you want to give out your information?
Sure.
Go for
Sure,
it.
yeah. My email is motherowl57@gmail.com, which is a spiritually, I was kind of dubbed that spiritually. So that's MOTHEROWL57@gmail.com. I have my Mother Owls Renaissance Facebook page, which is RENASCENCE, as opposed to the actual spelling for Renaissance, for Mother Owl Renaissance. That's my Facebook page. Instagram, same thing, Mother Owl Renaissance. Just trying to think here. I have a bunch there. Email, Facebook, website. The website is actually I've created, but I've included my good friend, and who I call my sister, because we do a lot of retreats together, and we do create products together and whatnot. So the website is Sisters of Light 57@gmail.com. So that's SISTERSOFLIGHT 57 or .ca, sorry. So there's that as well. And of course, I'm all over the place otherwise too, but that's kind of the main ways to get a hold of me. And of course, on Facebook, you can use Messenger, or through the website, there's contact forms throughout it, and that type of thing. So I can be reached out that way, definitely.
Okay. And anything else that you want to share with us? Anything else people should know that you think would be a handy tip for them to know?
I just think the main thing right now is everybody knows, for, the way that things are being played out right now collectively around the world. It's a lot of the same symptoms and things going on. And a lot of us are trying to, or we are working to navigate through to help people to the best of our ability to try and level the playing field with the energies. Because the more negative energies are a little more prominent than the lighter, more positive energies. And we need to get that back into a balance. We don't need to get rid of anything. We just need to get it back into a balance. So a lot of the work that I and many of my colleagues and sisters and brothers and friends, a lot of what we're doing is we're really working hard to get people to to work on themselves mentally, emotionally, physically. A lot of it is energetic. You go to the doctor will say, I can't find anything wrong with you, but here, if you're having pain, here's a prescription.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not saying don't go to a doctor. None of us will say don't go to a doctor, don't take medications, because they have their purpose as well. I will never ever say that. I am not a doctor, and there are things, very little I will say that we can't do, but there are things that it is needed for. But there are a lot of people that come to us to say, you know what, I'm having these issues. I've been to the doctor. I've had MRIs. I've had ultrasounds. I've done this, and this, and they just can't find anything. That is one of the things that is very important right now, because as I said to you, these energies that we carry forth from lifetime to lifetime and that we continue to build on in our current lifetime is what's creating a lot of these energies that are playing out in the collective. These energies are over time can be detrimental to all of us, not just our own self, but to those around us, as I explained earlier. So the only thing we do is ask people that if you're feeling, different things, we are guided. This is not just, we don't read books and depict how this looks. We are guided in terms of just the same. So I guess the long and short of it is many years ago, before there were doctors, right? How did we heal? Centuries ago, did we have doctors and pharmaceuticals? No. We went to shamans, medicine women, medicine men, herbalists, right? As you're seeing, a lot of this is coming back around, right?
Absolutely. Yep.
All the natural paths and the stuff now that I'm doing, and that shamans have been doing for centuries, forever. So what used to happen is people would get ill and they would go to them and say, I'm having this issue. Those are the people they would go to, and they would get right to the root of the problem. They didn't have Band-Aids. They didn't exist. Right? So this is the main thing right now, that the message we are trying to get out to everybody is, please seek out not just your doctors, but seek out, if you know of or hear of or have a way of connecting with anybody. I mean, even if you want to connect with me and you're not close to me or you don't resonate with me, we don't play out. It's not like a business. It's not a competition. We want people to get the help that they need to get help with, however that looks. Even if it's on a spiritual basis and they're on a path and they know that there's something they should be doing, but they just can't get a handle on that. They just can't figure it out, right? I will even refer them to people. This isn't, like I said, this is not a competition. We need people to get to the root of what is going on in their life to help them, because a lot of times they have no idea why they're feeling this way, why they're ill, or why the doctors can't pinpoint why they're ill or how to fix it or to help them. And when it boils down to is we're guided through everything we do, through energetic, shamanic, medicine work, whatever that is, whatever it looks like for each individual. We're a conduit to the guidance, and essentially we heal ourselves, right? So it's not about us healing you. It's about you finding the right path to what you need in order that you can step into that path that you're meant to be in, and you are guided to do what you need to do for you to get better. And right now, that is a very huge message playing out that needs to happen, and what we're all doing to help that happen.
I hope people can be open-minded enough to explore this.
Most are, but not all are. And that's fine. You know what? Everybody has their own path and journey in this lifetime. And sometimes that's just not what's going to happen. But the majority are. And the majority, even those that don't understand it or don't know it, are at least open-minded enough, like you said, to at least explore it. They're curious.
Right? Yeah. And
so this is why I'm having my live discussions that I have every other night. So I don't know if I don't have anything to give you that I could just look at and say, here, this is where you can find them. But every other week on Tuesday night at 7 o'clock, this is why I'm doing live discussions with many, many practitioners, shamans, people that do different modalities, that are also spiritually guided, that even do breath work, do the modalities that, that aren't even necessarily spiritually attached, although they really are. People don't understand that our breath is very spiritual.
Where do you do your live talks?
It's actually on a platform I've just been asked to collaborate with. It's called the WCLC. It's the Wisdom Circle Learning Community. And then I posted out. If they go to my Mother Owl Renaissance Facebook page, you go into the feeds. You're going to see I've already done 4 of them. I'm doing another one tonight, actually, with another girl who does different types. And it's all people with all different healings, and all the different modalities that they use, from breath work to artwork, helping them to express through artwork, QHHT, there's spiritual stuff. There's just a vast, I'm literally booked up until June with these interviews with many different types. So for those that would like to reach out and see what may resonate with them, this is why I'm doing it. So by all means, if they go on my Facebook page, that would be the place to go and see the link. And then, if you want to engage with these live events, because you can actually interact. At the last part of each discussion is an interactive period of time, so that people can actually engage and ask questions pertaining to the work that gets done, especially if it resonates with them, to maybe reach out and get to work with this person.
Well, that's fantastic. And I will share the information as well.
Yeah, that'd be beautiful. Please do.
Yeah, I'll share it on my own Facebook as well for you.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's awesome. Thank you so much.
Well, I've taken up an hour of your time, Leah, so I'm going to let you go.
You know what? This is a passion, so it's all good. To me, it seems like 15 minutes.
I know. And I think I could probably do 5 more shows and never cover the same thing twice.
Well, get a hold of me. Well, we'll go through some more things.
That would be wonderful. Yes, and I'll put it out because I had to cut back a lot of the questions. So, yeah, certainly I would love to do this with you again.
Yeah, well, for sure. Like I said, anytime. As you see, I'm not short on conversation for any of it. It's a passion, and it's very hard sometimes to break it into a very condensed version of things in order for people to get clarity on some of it.
Yeah, there's a lot of information for sure.
It is, and it leads to more questions.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it does, because I have a whole bunch. So
Exactly.
But thank you again. I really appreciate your time today.
Thank you so much. And if there's anything I can do, by all means, reach out to me.
I will. Thanks so much.
All right. Have a great day.
You too. Take care. Bye-bye.
You too. Bye-bye.
We are all